We're back with the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali to talk our best bets in three major races this weekend at three different tracks. We have Kentucky Downs for the Nashville Derby, a Grade 3, plus Del Mar for the Grade 1 Pacific Classic, and Saratoga for the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup. The latter two are Breeders' Cup win-in your ins for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Kentucky Downs does have a Breeders' Cup Prep, the Kentucky Downs Turf Sprint for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, but the Nashville Derby, I thought, came up a little bit more interesting. I think we all three thought so. So we're gonna start with that race today. Race 10 at Kentucky Downs on Saturday for 3-year-olds racing 1 5/16 of a mile on the turf. Post time 5:46 p.m. Eastern time. James, I'll start with you. Who is your play in the Nashville Derby?
My play is number 11, Final Gambit. This is a Juddmonte homebred son of Not This Time that debuted on the turf at Churchill Downs last fall, ran third. Then he switched to synthetics at Turfway and really came on this spring, breaking his maiden, winning the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and then finishing fourth in the Kentucky Derby. Brad Cox tried him once more on the dirt after that. He didn't run up to par, so switched him to turf in his last two races. And in both the Belmont Derby and in the Saratoga Derby, I just thought that he sort of, was trying to find himself, find his level in these turf stakes. Certainly in the first race, the Belmont Derby, he got really pushed out wide, but finished, I thought, with good interest. And then even last time in the Saratoga Derby, I really thought that he lost a little bit of focus coming off the turn. But once again, once he gets into the stretch, he finished up, I think, with good interest. Those are two races I'm looking for Final Gambit to really move forward off of, really relish this mile and 3/16 distance of the Nashville Derby. And I'm going to look for him to put it all together for Brad Cox on Saturday.
Yeah, he closed well in those last two turf starts. Behind Tescore, though, who's in this field, the second choice on the morning line. Darin, I'll turn it over to you. You don't like Tescore, at least you're not playing Tescore. Who are you playing in this race?
No, and in fact, I bet Final Gambit in the Saratoga Derby, and I thought that was a race that he was sitting on a big one, stretching out a little bit. But to be honest, he just has not shown that same turn of foot that he showed in the synthetic, and I wonder if the synthetic is just his best surface. We'll find out here. I mean, obviously, the longer race could play into his hands, but I landed on Burnham Square. There's a lot of horses in here that are coming off the Triple Crown Trail, and the one with turf pedigree is Burnham Square. The dam side is Linda. She was a stakes performer, a stakes winner on turf. You take a look at the extended family. There's a lot of turf. Scat Daddy there as well. Liam's Map certainly can throw some turf runners as well. And he's going to get pace set up. And the one thing that you never have to worry about with Burnham Square is can he get a distance of ground? I think the longer the race is, the better. I think if the Belmont Stakes was a mile and a half this year, you probably would have seen him in that Belmont Stakes. The Haskell going a mile and an eighth on a speed favoring track like Monmouth, for me, I just draw a line through that race. I mean, that was not the right spot for him whatsoever. I think he's going to get an honest enough setup here. And the last time we saw him get a good setup was in the Bluegrass Stakes, where he came running late. And here's a look back at that race where he's going to come extremely wide and chase down East Avenue, among others in here. Chancer McPatrick was in this field as well. But I think Burnham Square in this spot, I think Brian Hernandez can take him back and make one long sustained run. And again, because of the pedigree, I'm really not concerned about this horse making a surface switch. A horse like Sandman, I could certainly see some questions. He does have a couple of stakes winners, turf winners in the family. But I've been waiting for Burnham Square to go to turf for a long time. This is an interesting spot. You're getting a lot of big names in the race for $3.5 million. So it certainly does make sense. But I think you could fire a big race here at what should be a pretty square number.
And I'll just say I agree 100% about the. He's got to prove it on turf because this will be his turf debut. But that female family is slanted towards it, and having watched him, I was at Keeneland for the Bluegrass, and then watched him train for the Derby. He's got a little bit of a high leg action that would suggest that he'll be well suited for the surface switch.
Yeah, first time out, if you look at the Dam Sire stats, first time out, 15% with this progeny trying turf for the first time. I was a little concerned that Ian Wilkes, first time out on the grass, is not very high percentage, or going from dirt to turf. But there is the turf pedigree you mentioned. I thought Hill Road, if we're going on Triple Crown Trail, he was at one point on the Triple Crown Trail. And he did make his debut on the turf and now going back to it. I thought he might be in play if we're looking for someone going on that surface switch. Ultimately, though, Final Gambit had my eye, but I went for a big price here. And it might seem a little crazy, but I went with number 9, Noble Confessor at 20 to 1. This is a horse who did start on dirt first 2 starts of his career. He's trained by Todd Pletcher and last out wired. Well, he broke his maiden finally in his 7th career start, wired the field at a mile and 3/16 at Saratoga, and he got away with slow fractions that day. But if you look at his other turf starts, he's come from off the pace. He's closed well, racing at a mile and a 16th as well. And I'm looking for added ground here to benefit him. I don't think he has to go to the front. I think he certainly can come from off the pace. I'm not quite sure who does get the early lead here. You got King of Ashes, who sometimes goes to the front. Tomasello, I think, will go out there. But I thought Noble Confessor at the big price was worth taking a shot. He has a win in 2 seconds from 4 tries on the turf. Irad Ortiz Jr. is aboard. And Todd Pletcher has won the Nashville Derby twice from a very brief history dating back to 2014 with this race. So I wanted to go big price here. Almost went Final Gambit, who is a good price as well, but I'm going to take a swing with a 20 to 1.
I think he's definitely going to the lead. I wouldn't worry about the other speed. I thought that was a performance for him to build upon. And, you know, there are some of those runners you mentioned have like some speed, but Irad's aggressive. He knows that turf at Kentucky Downs. We saw a couple of front running winners pre-taping already there today on the opening day. So listen, his best chance, I think, is wire to wire. And I think those will be the tactics that Irad uses.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and definitely part of my plan for hoping that the race does set up for Burnham Square. If Noble Confessor doesn't go, I don't know how the pace scenario really unfolds. Nobody picked Wimbledon Hawkeye, who's certainly an interesting horse. I mean, he did run second to Field of Gold earlier on in his career, and
he was second to the Sword Dancer winner 2 starts back.
He was. So yeah, we might be a little bit dismissive here of a pretty talented horse on the grass, but there's no fun, I guess, in picking favorites from Europe. But make no mistake about it, he's going to be a handful.
I was going to ask though, we didn't talk about the 2 morning line choices, the 7 to 2 in Wimbledon Hawkeye, and also Test-Score, who's 4 to 1. And Test-Score does seem like he's coming in here off good form. Wimbledon Hawkeye, if you look at his previous record, he's raced over soft turf and overseas on good turf that was probably still a little bit closer to the soft side. So I did wonder, how does he translate to firm turf, which he should get on Saturday? Did you all feel any concern with, how is he going to handle this surface? Because how firm of a surface has he had before?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a concern, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you reference it. You can look at his PPs. He got 2 wins from 11 starts, 1 from his last 10, and that came on soft turf. He does run second and third a lot, so he definitely could be in the mix. But I'm not sold on him showing up with a winning performance.
What's the knock on Test-Score here? Is it just the price, or did you all feel like
I don't know. With me, I don't know how good the American 3-year-old turf horses really are, I guess, is kind of my knock. Which I be honest, I think that's probably why a lot of these connections are putting a lot of these horses that have been running on dirt in this spot. I think he's a nice horse. Zulu Kingdom is a very good horse, but when you take a look at what he's been running against, I just don't know how good these horses are. And at a short price, I don't want to use the word vulnerable. I just think there's better value elsewhere. I wouldn't be shocked if he won by any stretch, but it's just a question of, I'm not sure how deep that crop is.
Well, we do love value here on the TwinSpires GIII. And now we're going to move over to a race where that might be hard to find, the Pacific Classic at Del Mar, race 10. It's a 1.25 miles on the main track for 3-year-olds and up, post time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Darin, I'll start with you. Who is your play in the Pacific Classic?
Well, I think it's fair to say that if any one of the 3 logicals win this race, I would be extremely surprised. I don't want to speak for other people, but I would be extremely surprised. I landed on Fierceness, and it's hard to guess right on him. You never know when he's going to show up with his best effort. But the last 2 races, I thought there were legitimate issues for a horse who, I will say, if he doesn't get things his own way, he does not run his best race. And last time out, in the Whitney. Um, I just thought that when they came out of the gate, and you see him here kind of going to the front, he's about a length and a half in front of Contrary Thinking, who's the rabbit in here. Looks like he's going to get good spots second off the speed. And now, if you watch him when the 8 and the green cap on the far outside goes, he's going to kind of check around a little bit, take a hold. You're going to see him throw his head up right here. He's getting rank because Contrary Thinking is coming up alongside of him. And I think that really put him into a bad spot. Now, here's a look at the start of the Met Mile. That's him on the rail. Little bit of bumping there, but Raging Torrent broke like a bullet. He's getting hustled along. He doesn't get to the front. You see him shy away again, throws his head up. Now has to get guided to the outside. He's got White Abario leaning all over him. And now he's going to kind of try to move out into a spot. Again, it's just, this is the type of horse he is. When he does not get things his own way, he's not going to run his best race. Now you could say, well, Darin, why do you pick him here? I think there's one thing to do, and it's what this horse did in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, and that's just full-blown send as best you can and get him into a spot. I think the 1.25 miles, excuse me, I think is a difference maker for him. There's no Contrary Thinking that's going to be coming up on his outside, forcing the issue. And I think John Velasquez has to learn from those last two races. The other thing is Nysos looked fantastic in the San Diego. I know you guys both picked him. I don't have a strong lean against him. I got to see him do it at 1.25 miles before I pick him in a spot like this against Fierceness and Journalism, who have both been proven at the distance. So those are my knocks on Nysos. Journalism is a 3-year-old facing older for the first time, which is always a bit of a question. Fierceness has run dynamite races at 1.25 miles before. I think he's the most talented horse in the field. I think he probably will get a better trip than he did in the last two. So that's why I picked him.
Before we move on to James and my pick in this, what price do you think you're going to get on Fierceness? We don't have the morning lines yet, but he probably will be the third choice at post time, I would guess. What kind of price are you expecting?
I think that these three horses are probably going to literally get somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% of the win pool between the three of them,
Yeah.
if not more. So based on that, I think Journalism is actually going to go off favored. I think slightly. I would expect Journalism to be somewhere around 8-5. I think Nysos is going to be somewhere 9-5, 2-1. And I think Fierceness is going to be somewhere between 5-2 and 3-1. And everybody else is going to be to the moon.
Yeah, I'm hoping we at least get Nysos as that second choice. But James, I'll let you talk about Nysos first. Why do you like him in this race?
Well, I do like Nysos in the Pacific Classic, and I just really was impressed by San Diego handicap performance. I thought that off of the Triple Bend, his comebacker, off of the Churchill Downs, his comebacker, he went to Triple Bend, and that was a front-running victory. He broke sharply. He was on the lead from the very start. I thought they would employ speed, stretching to 2 turns, but the game plan was 100% to rate in that San Diego. And, there was a slight moment of concern, perhaps leaving the far turn. But once they straightened in the stretch, I loved how he finished that day, full of run. Darin referenced it. He does have the stretch to 10 furlongs, but I do think that that's a good race for him to keep building upon. He's won now 2 in a row and appears to be back, just training superbly as well for this specific classic engagement. And I just think he's going to have the opportunity to get first run on Journalism, and we'll see if he can prove best. My concern, listen, if Fierceness breaks and leads wire to wire, wins this race, I'll be happy for him. But I've seen a horse like him who ran such big races last fall and then came back with a huge performance in Alysheba, and then he takes a step back in his next two. And like Darin referenced, he's got some issues. Todd Pletcher's talked about him publicly as well in both races, but it's too much of a concern that he's not at the top of his game for me. So I'm on Nysos and anything in the 2-1. The thing with Nysos also is coming out of that San Diego, it looked like he might be 1-5 in this race if horses like Journalism and Fierceness did show up. I'm glad they're in there, and I'm glad Nysos will have to earn it.
Yeah, because I believe it was maybe a month or two ago, you all both were excited to play against Nysos in this race, but obviously now we see the field, and I still think there's potentially value here. I think Journalism will be favored and potentially has that right setup, but a lot of the reasons you gave already, James, about why you like Nysos, It's hard to play against Baffert in this race. He has 7 wins in the Pacific Classic, and Nysos has more than proven himself at Del Mar as a 2-for-2 record and one last out, stretching out to a mile and a 16th, obviously stretching out to a mile and a quarter. We're about to watch a clip from Bob Baffert. He said it would have been, he'd feel more confident if this race was a mile and an eighth. He is going to have to go longer than that and see if he can actually handle that distance to go to the Breeders' Cup Classic. But I'm gonna take my chances with him. I want to see him succeed, and I feel like he has obviously the pedigree to succeed. So we'll just see how he handles his first test going a mile and a quarter. But let's see what Bob Baffert had to say overall about Nysos in the Pacific Classic.
We've got one of the biggest races of the summer this Saturday. You've got the morning line favourite, Nysos. What's he been showing you since the San Diego, I should say, earlier on in the meet?
Well, I mean, Nysos, he's always, shown sign of brilliance. We know he's very fast, and I love the way he came back and on Derby Day, he almost won that race off a long layoff like that. It was asking a lot, but we took a crack at it, and he just came up a little short. Got beat by he got beat by Mindframe, who's one of the top horses in the country, and then came back, won Santa Anita, won the San Diego, stretched him out. Never been past a mile and the 16th. We're going to just keep stretching it out here. The Pacific Classic was probably, if it was a mile and an eighth, probably feel a little bit better about it. But I think a mile and a quarter, I think we're going to find out. If he can handle that, then he can run the Breeders' Cup Classic. If he can't, there's the mile or the sprint. He could do either. He could probably do any of the three. But I think he's just he's a brilliant racehorse, and he's got a great mind. He's not one-dimensional. Pratt knows him well. You can sit and you can go, and so I like that about him. But you need luck, and there's some good horses in there. Fierceness on his best day, he can beat us all. You've got Journalism, who's run unbelievable. I mean, he's made danced every dance, and I get to see him train here in the mornings, and he still looks fantastic. And there's some other horses in there that are just coming around there for him. So, it's going the trip's going to be very important, but it's going to be exciting, and it's a tough Grade 1 race.
You talk about stretching him out again in the distance, but the way in which he won last out so impressively and probably eased down as well, would you say? Does that give you the confidence that he's going to see out this trip?
Well, I think he just, he's worked well, and we just always from day one, he was always, he's always shows that brilliance. Yeah. I think he's a brilliant racehorse, and I think the distance, as long as they can all get a mile and a quarter if they don't go too fast early or whatever. But I just like the way he's coming into this race, and he's worked well. And the good ones, they take their track with him. He likes any track that he goes on. So we're quietly optimistic, that he will run well. So hopefully when they turn for home, he's right there.
Your past performances in this race read very well. A record-setting 7-time winner of the race. What sort of horse does it take to win the Pacific Classic, Bob?
Well, I've got a lot of nice horses beat here too. So I think it's 50-50. I think you need a good horse, and he has to get the trip. He has to be doing well, and so I've gotten a few favorites beat here, so it can be disappointing. But all in all, it's exciting. I think the first year they had it, I remember coming down here as a trainer. I was stable one of these adobe barns. I had like 10 horses, and I remember watching the race from the backside on the stand by myself, watching all these unbridled, Best Pal won it that year. You could hear the crowd. It was just huge. And then Cigar came, and he got beat. That was it was just everybody. The grandstand got so quiet, and so there's a lot of history. So to win the Pacific Classic, it's huge. It's a huge accomplishment. That's like our Travers of Del Mar, and so if you can win it, it's a big accomplishment for any trainer if you can win the Pacific Classic.
Yeah, right. Well, good luck to you and the team chasing win number 8 in the race this weekend at Del Mar.
Well, I think we have the horse. If we can get the trip, I think we can get it done.
All the best, Bob.
There you have it. And thank you to Andrew Brown for getting that exclusive with Bob Baffert
Baffert
over
likes
in
Andrew
some.
Brown.
Yeah.
He does. I'd be honest. I don't think he's necessarily oozing with confidence based on his
Yeah.
comments that the horse is getting a mile and a quarter. I read that as I want to run a horse in the Breeders' Cup Classic. This is the horse that would get me there. I'm putting him
Right.
in this race to find out if he could do it.
Yeah.
And if he can't, that's no problem. I'll just run him in one of the other two. It's pretty much what he
Right.
said. So I'm not saying he can't get a mile and a quarter, but if that's one of my questions, I don't watch the interview and go, "Oh yeah, he's good." I think it's a legitimate question.
Yeah, I am curious. Do you think he'd be better off if he doesn't get the distance and there are questions about him at a mile and a quarter? If he were to go to the sprint or the dirt mile, do you think he's
I I
better
think
suited to the sprint or the dirt
I,
mile?
I think the dirt mile is usually lesser caliber horses than the sprint, and
Yeah.
I'm generalizing there, but like if Bookham Dano runs in the sprint, he's probably a better racehorse than anything else that's going to show up in the dirt mile, I would argue. So I think that the sprint is probably the tougher race based on the competition. Um, I think the dirt mile, he could, if he was in that race, he could absolutely pull like a golden sense and just completely, crush a field. But we'll see. I mean, if he wins, he
Yeah.
gets to the classic, and you know that's what Baffert wants to do.
Right.
In the Churchill Downs that had a ton of pace. I mean, he's eighth at the second
Yeah.
call. I mean, he goes to the
Hmm.
sprint to me. If he gets beat Saturday, the dirt mile, he'd be much better suited with his tactical ability in a spot like that than having to potentially just make one run from way back in the sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he gets to go up against Patch Adams trying two turns again and trying to get his first win at two turns. Yeah.
Maybe we'll
Dirt
see what
miles
happens.
probably.
I don't get that move, but
All right.
we'll talk about that when we do the
Yeah.
Breeders' Cup preview show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on to our final race that we're going to debate and our fates, let's talk promos and tournaments. So, Darin, it's your turn to take the stage.
Yeah, promo wise, wrapping up the summer selected money back soon. Obviously, giving money back second and third covers all the great racing action across the country. So be sure to be opted into that and see what races have been selected, and you can bet with a little more confidence. And you could also bet with a little more confidence at Kentucky Downs because we are giving selected races back on the money back there as well. So again, always each week check which races are there so you know what's covered. And again, bet with a little more confidence. We've got a double money back here going on with all the great racing from coast to coast this weekend. Of course, tournament wise, fantastic stuff going on this weekend. We have a combined tournament that's going to incorporate both the Saratoga and Kentucky Downs cards on Saturday for a Mint Millions Betting Challenge qualifier. That's a $600 entry. And the Mint Millions Betting Challenge will take place on September 6th, awarding seats to the NHC, the BCBC, and the KDBC, plus a guarantee of $10,000 cash. And we have a bonus feeder for that, featuring the racing at Saratoga tomorrow. The bonus feeders are really cool. Once we get to 10 players, we give away one entry for every 4 players from that point on. It's the lowest ratio you will find anywhere in the industry when it comes to the tournament. So great stuff. There's going to be action hot and heavy closing out Saratoga. Kentucky Downs is going to have a tournament every day as well. So be sure to go to our tournaments page and check out what we have going on. A lot of exciting stuff.
And to round out our top plays, we will go to the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup, another Breeders' Cup. Winning you're in for the Classic. It's on Sunday, race 5 at Saratoga. It's a mile and a quarter for 3-year-olds and up. Post time 1:45 p.m. Eastern time. James, who's your play?
My play is Mind Frame, number 4. Sierra Leone's 8-5 morning line favorite in here. Mind Frame 2-1 second choice, and Highland Falls is the third choice on the morning line. I look for Mind Frame to sit a good trip in like third, just off the speed, and be in position to take the lead and try to hold off the late runners like Sierra Leone and others. I looked at his. Went back and watched both the Belmont and the Haskell last year, and the Belmont at a mile and a quarter. I don't think it was the distance at all that got him. I just think he was green and immature in those races. Still finished a clear second after losing his focus in the stretch. He's come back a much more serious horse at age 4. This will be an important test for him with the distance, but I think his tactical ability will assure a really good trip. And I look for him to get first run and hold off the deep closers in the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Darin, tell us why you like high.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, wow. My Siri decided to turn on in the middle of the show.
Doesn't understand horse racing, apparently.
Siri doesn't understand James's pick. But Darin, let's talk about Highland Falls, who won this race last year.
Yeah, he did, and I thought he ran a spectacular race in the Whitney to be second to Sierra Leone. Laid a little bit closer to the pace than that rival, and kind of had I won't call it first run, but that's him right there being shoved on three wide to the inside of Fierceness. Fierceness looks like at this point in time that there's no way he's not at least running second in this race, but maybe made a premature move, and I really respect Highland Falls here because he was all in at the 3 furlong pole and he just keeps on plugging away and keeps on coming. And you have to respect that in the racehorse. Sierra Leone gets the best trip on this day, and Highland Falls are just going to kind of wear down everybody else. You're going to see Disarm kind of coming through in between horses as well. And I think it's really important to note that the winner and the third place finisher in this race came from last and next to last. So I really think that moves Highland Falls' effort, who was much closer to the pace, really forward. And if he could duplicate that performance at a mile and a quarter, and he did win the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year at a mile and a quarter, I think he's a major player in here. You have speed from Mind Frame. You know what Contrary Thinking's job is. Phileas Fogg certainly is going to ensure an early clip, and Antiquarian wants to be pretty forward as well. So I think on paper, there's definitely a case to be made that Sierra Leone is going to be very, very tough right back because of the pace scenario. He's going to be a shorter price this time around, even I think than last time. I do think he's the most likely winner of the race. I just think I'm going to get a much better price on Highland Falls, and I really respected his last effort and just think he's in fantastic form right now. And he loves Saratoga, and I'm going to get a better price. So that's what I'm going to do.
I believe it's 5-1 on the morning line. I'm not sure if that's.
I think it might be a little
official.
higher than that. I think Mind Frame and Sierra Leone will take the lion's share of the money. I think he could be 6-7 to 1 at post time.
Well, I decided maybe I'm getting cute on this one to go with a 15-1 on the morning line, Phileas Fogg. And we've talked about Contrary Thinking, what he did last time in the Whitney. We know what he's going to do in this race as well. He is the emotional support rabbit, as Mike Rapoli will call him, and he's going to go straight to the front. But the reason I landed on Phileas Fogg is because if you look at the Excelsior, we had a horse go way out to the front as well. That was Mama's Gold. And Phileas Fogg ended up settling in second, about 8 lengths back at the first call, ended up getting the lead, had the lead at the second call by more than 3 lengths, and then ended up winning by more than 5 at that race. Now, in his next start, he was racing longer in the Pimlico Special, and he was beaten to second by 3/4 of a length. And then one last out in the Suburban, he went gate to wire that race at a mile and a quarter. I know this might be a little bit of a stretch. I know there's other speed that's going to go to the front, but Phileas Fogg, I think, doesn't necessarily need to go to the front as we saw in this race, for one. And we're going to see Contrary Thinking, I think, have a very easy lead this time. He didn't necessarily have an easy lead, surprisingly, in the Whitney. But Phileas Fogg, big price, 2 for 2 at Saratoga, has 2 wins and a second from 3 tries at this distance. And ever since moving to his trainer, he was claimed actually back in July of last year, and he's never finished worse than second since then. So I'm taking a swing with a big price here yet again. I've, I guess, gone for big prices in 2 of the 3 races. It was hard to go for a big price in the Pacific Class.
I'm not sold on Contrary Thinking as like guaranteed being in the rabbit roll. One thing about this horse is gelding. He doesn't always break well, and I thought that was a moderate pace last time, and he didn't make the lead. So I think if Kendrick Farnoosh breaks sharply, he's 100% got a chance to. Even if Contrary Think it's up there close, he's not going to be worried about it because that horse won't stick around for long.
Yeah, it was kind of funny in the Whitney. I don't really think Sierra Leone even needed him, to be honest with you. I think because Mama's Gold was going to ensure a really fast pace in that race. To be honest with you, I do think Contrary Thinking, the biggest impact he had in the Whitney, I think, was hurting Fierceness, which I think that angle was legitimate. I don't think he necessarily improved Sierra Leone, but I think when he came up along on the outside of Fierceness and you saw Fierceness kind of throw his head up, and I think it screwed up his race a little bit. Phileas Fogg's best race, interestingly enough, was at a mile and a quarter, and it was a race that he was 6 to 8 lengths off of a blazing early pace, which, if contrary thinking wants to do that, if he breaks
Mhm.
well, I don't think Kendrick Carmouche would have any issue duplicating that performance. I'm also going to call out Mike Rapoli. I take exception to him knocking the rabbit thing. It's something that has taken place in Europe for decades. There's been some of the greatest trainers in the world that have used rabbits for a very, very long time. Frankel had a rabbit. There's, Aidan O'Brien has certainly used them. And there have been plenty
Look,
of,
Pastor Damascus have used
sure,
rabbits.
there have been plenty of American horses that have used it. Oh, by the way, including Todd Pletcher,
Yeah.
who had a rabbit for English Channel, who trains a few horses for Mike Rapoli. So listen, Mike Rapoli's in a very easy space. If I had $10 billion with no ramifications, I could say whatever I want to. Doesn't take a lot of courage to do that. But I take exception to him, labeling Sierra Leone an emotionally dependent on a rabbit. Because if you know how to watch horse racing and you know how to watch the Whitney, Sierra Leone did not need contrary thinking in that race to help him. He was winning that race if contrary thinking was in the race or not. Um, I just think it was a jaded owner who was upset that contrary thinking hurt his horse's chances. And I think he's taking it out on the fact that Sierra Leone won the race.
Certainly could be true. The other thing about Sierra Leone is he tends to bounce. So he's coming off a win. He's strung together 2 wins, but it's been quite a while. So I
The
don't
one
know
thing I
what
will say though, Ashley, is that he's not really acting up anymore in the stretch.
that's true.
And, it's kind of a thing that was with him last year where he would get a little bit goofy and sideways and
Yep.
lug in on horses and hang a little bit. If he stops doing that, he's hard to hold off.
Hey,
Yeah, I
Dr.
mean, he
Fager.
started like professional last start.
Yeah.
Dr. Fager was one of the best horses of his era, and he had to deal with rabbits in nearly every race he ran.
Sure.
And, it's just there's not an awareness of the history of the sport if you're knocking the idea of them running. Peter Brandt co-owns Sierra Leone, so you're just not aware of the history of the sport if you're not if you think there's an issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's move on from rabbits to rapid fire fades. Darin, I will start with you.
Yeah, this might be low hanging fruit. I thought Flatten the Curve was vulnerable in this marathon race, going the 2+ miles in the Mountain Dew Bowling Green Gold Cup, a 2 and a 16th mile event. I do like European runners when they come over here. Not when they come over for a race like this. They left him in the Belmont Gold Cup, which you could draw a line through when that race was taken off the turf. The thing I don't like about Flatten the Curve, when he ran in France, he was not good, like by any stretch of the imagination. The one race that he won at France was at a lower end track. Granted, it was a marathon distance, but I mean that race was like the akin to like a $25,000 claiming race at Aqueduct. Then when he went to Germany, he started winning these races. But that's, the German circuit compared to trying to win at Longchamp and Deauville are just completely different types of circuits. And then he went back to Germany off the Belmont Gold Cup and won again. I just don't think this horse at age 6 right now off of that form is really that good. And he's running into limited liability, who when he gets to go a couple of miles, he's usually pretty tough. He won this race last year by 8 1/4 lengths. You're going to give me that horse stretching back out with speed in a short field that doesn't really have any other speed that can, I think, go with limited liability. When he's proven on Kentucky Downs, I'll take him as the second choice, and I'll fade Flatten the Curve.
Another horse to Flatten the Curve, who most of his wins have come on turf labeled soft or even heavy. So another variable. How does he translate to firm turf on Saturday?
Good point.
James, what about you? I think you're at Kentucky Downs as well.
That's right. I'm going to go to Howard Wolowitz. He's the 2 horse in the race 9, the $2 million Kentucky Turf Sprint, a Breeders' Cup win you're in for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Listen, Howard Wolowitz last year had a real sharp maiden win at Gulfstream Park, and then he went to Saratoga and ran in at the Mahoney Stakes and really a really solid effort that day. Now he came up a little bit short, but he had a ton of trouble, and he just kept building upon those efforts against a group of 3-year-olds that wasn't that strong in the Franklin Simpson last fall. He came out of that race, ran twice more, and then over the winter, and then was freshened in advance of a race in Saudi Arabia where he ran 10th in late February. He's unraced since then. He's stepping up to face a good, solid group of older turf sprinters. I mean, this race has a lot of options, I think, namely Arrest Me Red and others that are going to be tough customers for him to get by. I really like Implementation, who's the one horse at 10-1. But the one horse I won't have on any of my multi-race tickets is Howard Wolowitz. I think he's vulnerable in the spot off the layoff, and I would have liked to have seen a prep race for it.
Yeah, this is a loaded field. You got no balls in there. You got Pipsy, who I think sometimes, I know you're a big Will Walden fan. I feel like
Yeah, oh,
6
for sure.
furlongs, he certainly can do 6 furlongs. He's 2 for 3 at 6 furlongs. So yeah, you got some good prices in there. Good chance to play against Howard Wolowitz. I also am at Kentucky Downs, and it is a lukewarm favorite, I'll admit, but I'm fading in the finale, race 12. I'm fading number 3, Mayweather, at 4-1. This is a horse who's 0 for 3 and now switching to the turf. Michael McCarthy, an 8% winner first time on the turf, and Mayweather's Dam has yet to produce a turf winner. Plus, the sire, Practical Joke, is a 6% winner with horses making their first start on the turf. There is an equipment change, but I still feel like with all those stats, with the trainer and the pedigree, I'd rather try to play a price. The 1, Boonesboro, I thought 5, Cynical Humor, who Wesley Ward always is going to do well on the turf and already has wins today at Kentucky Downs. The 6 at 20-1, I thought was an interesting long shot, and the 9 as well. So a couple of prices if you don't want to play a lukewarm favorite who is trying a new surface for the first time. And I think that's all there is to say about the fades, right? All right, well, I think that is all the time we have today. We have certainly talked about a lot. So I will wish you all the best in betting all 3 of these tracks this weekend and where else you're playing. And of course, watch and wager at TwinSpires. We'll see you next week.